Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Chasing Hazel's Tales, a family history podcast. Hazel was our grandmother, and if you haven't heard Hazel's story, I invite you to check it out and our entire episode list. It's growing, and we love the stories. I'm Kim McLaughlin.
And I'm Laura Ireland.
And Laura and I earlier were discussing our preparation strategies, and we're not sure if this is genetic, but we tend to each go right down to the recording deadline, right down to the wire to create this podcast. And
Maybe it's a lack of preparation strategy.
That's right. But what's funny is that is exactly how I graduated college, and I graduated magna cum laude. And it's like, how did I do that when I don't know? So I think what I tend to do is I percolate, and I wander around the house and I percolate all my thoughts, and then right up to the deadline, and then boom, I just spit out a paper or a test and it's done. And so I don't know why that worked, but it did. Laura said she was the similar fashion, but of course she was summa cum laude, so it even worked better for her.
And in my head, my thoughts are like on a Plinko board.
Yeah.
Like The Price is Right. Things bounce around and then they fall into place, and then boom, I'm off.
That's what happens to me. Like the night before we're recording, I go to bed. It's like ding, ding, ding. All these things just start going, okay, this is how it's going to go. And then it's done. But it's just an observation. And I just thought maybe I should be more organized, but I'm really not. So
at this age, I'm really not going to change probably.
No, I don't think I am. And I think it's genetic. I don't think we have a choice. I think it just happens.
I mean, 29,
Yeah. Yeah, 29. No way you're changing now.
Yeah. Woo, no, I'm too old.
But anyway, right now we are deep into the Nicolai story, so we're going to get right to it. And I wanted to let you, I hope everybody had a great Valentine's Day, because I envisioned at some point that Salvatore and Ruth would fall right into Valentine's Day, right where it belongs, because I think it's almost like an ultimate love story. It started with love and it's just kind of generated from there, but that was kind of what I thought.
Yeah, it's a good thought. And this week we want to welcome back our very special guest, Lisa, who's been able to help us out with so much of the Nicolai story, being a member of the family.
Well, it's great to be back, and I'm going to miss it when you get done talking about the Nicolais.
Well,
special correspondent.
That's right. And I don't think that this is going to end, because I think 2023 is going to be a big year for the Nicolai family. So I'll just leave it at that. But 2023 is big, and we may have more things to say. I don't know.
And we might need to go on location to do some of this. Just saying. Okay, so to recap what we've been over, we'll call it the Nicolai recap. So 2 of Salvatore and Ruth Nicolai's children, Ruth and Sylvia, also called Sibby, and a granddaughter, Dee Dee, went to Italy to explore the Italian roots that Sibby had researched. So they had received the invitations from the family via the letters that were exchanged. And last week we used Ruth's journal to share the highlights of the trip. And I think her diary was a big hit. That was really nice to hear about it in her own words. And as it's been said in previous episodes, it's easy to type or transcribe the words of a touching letter or journal, but it's another to read it out loud. And it can really hit you right in the feels. And, you can appreciate the joy and the happiness. And it was so apparent in everything that Ruth wrote down, no question, So if anyone hasn't listened to it, it's certainly worth it, and we invite you to check it out. But so now that we've explored Salvatore Nicolai, who came to America in 1912, and we've learned a little bit about the family who remained in Italy, and we heard about the incredible reunions and introductions with them. And now we want to turn our attention to Consalvo, the other bird of passage who went to Argentina.
All right, we're just going to talk about Consalvo. So he was the youngest. Salvatore was the oldest when Consalvo was born in 1905 on March 24th. And he shares a birthday with a McLaughlin, one of his cousins, with Carol, also on March 24th. And about 80% of every McLaughlin was born in March. So you're bound to hit one. So again, he was 10 years younger than Salvatore. He went to Argentina when he was 16, and he enjoyed the Argentinian gaucho lifestyle during his adult years. He married Maria Antonio Ranieri on February 16th, 1929. They had 2 sons, Domingo and Amadeo, and he carved out a good life for his family in Argentina, but he was able to travel back to Italy to visit his brothers and sisters. And when he went by ship. Consalvo visited Italy around the same time that Ruth and Sibby were there, but they didn't cross paths. I think they were just a short time between them, but it never did work out. So Ruth and Sibby never got to meet Uncle Consalvo. So like I said, he had 2 sons, he had 6 grandchildren, and Domingo, one of his sons, contributed 12 great-grandchildren for Consalvo. And I don't have a whole lot of information about Amadeo. They had children and grandchildren as well. But just so we could say that the Nicolais are well represented in Argentina. And Andy and I went to Argentina to visit with Domingo and his family in 2017. His daughter, Maria, had extended an invitation for us to go visit the family. And of course, we love anything but to hop on a plane and go. We were so excited. So Domingo had married Marta Perez. They had 4 children. And we got to know all of them. And we were very well received, very much like Ruth and Sibby were in Italy. There was love, there was hugs, visits, and long, late suppers, and with some really great Malbec wine. It's really good wine. And it's interesting to note that when we gathered for a meal in Argentina, Domingo insisted that Andrew sit right beside him. He insisted, and I say insist because there was not a choice. He insisted, we did it. He insisted that we were guests. We would not lift a finger to help. And it was just a nice, warm feeling. Domingo wanted to be close to us and kept us at the front of the table with him. So he was just the sweetest man, and he loved his family, and all the children would be swirling around him. And I would call it somewhat like controlled chaos. They would be little ones running everywhere. And he would just sit and smile and watch them run and twirl and upside down on the couch. And then just the way things that kids do, he just enjoyed watching them. But the biggest thing was that how moved Domingo was because no other family members had ever made the trip to Argentina to visit before Andrew and I went. And so that really moved him a lot. The Nicolais are well represented in Argentina. They're lovely people with lots of stories. But one of the things that you can kind of relate with Domingo and with Consalvo and the family was a gaucho lifestyle. And I kind of got a sense of it when I was there because they had the full regalia, like the ponchos and some hats and things like that. But I'm no expert. But what it means is in Argentina, gauchos played an important role in 1810 War of Independence. So their intimate knowledge of the terrain of the Argentinian plains worked to their advantage and made the gaucho the perfect freedom fighter in the war. Their self-sacrifice in the war is something the country will never forget, making them national symbols of honor, bravery, and freedom. And the gaucho culture has resulted in styles and forms of expression in music, literature, and theater. Some of its main components are related to the importance of rural life, of playing, horse, guitar, mata, and beef, as well as the values of solidarity, loyalty, hospitality, and courage. A gaucho is a skilled horseman reputed to be brave and unruly. So I just wanted to clear that up. That's kind of like the essence of his life, of Consalvo's life, and kind of Argentina as well. So those are themes that you will see throughout Argentina when you go. And it was really, truly lovely. We enjoyed it very much.
So I would like to just talk about Maria just for a minute. Maria from Argentina, Domingo's daughter. She's the one that came to the United States as a young woman, and she was going to do some nanny work because she wanted to learn English better. But she ended up being with people that spoke Spanish, so that didn't help out so much. So she went back. But before she went back, she got a hold of Sibby. And that's how we made the connection with them. I took my mother down to Portland to Sib's house, and we met Maria there. So that's where that connection came in for us, is Maria was actually the one that took that first step.
Right.
Oh, and about when was that?
Oh, I'm going to say it was the early 2000s.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So last week, Kim mentioned finding similarities between my mother's trip to Italy and the trip that me and my siblings and Kim took 48 years later. The trip was incredible, and you don't have time on your podcast for me to just keep talking about it all day. So I'm going to try I'm going to try to be concise, because I literally could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. It was the trip of a lifetime for me. some of those similarities was the overwhelming welcome from our cousins. You know, we traveled to the same areas that Mom went to, the Orvieta, Viterbo, and Bon Regio, all of those different places that Mom described in her journal that I read last week. We went to the same places. So as I was reading that journal, you know, I could just picture all of these places because, you know, I had done that great big long walk up to Bon Regio, the same as she did. And the food, lots of food we seem to eat all the time. And I never gained an ounce when I was over there. I came back and I think I might have actually lost a pound, but we ate all the time, lots of food. The meals were over like a 3-hour period. And I'm not kidding. They would pick us up at 8 o'clock at night, and that's when we'd have dinner. And I thinking, I'm never going to sleep tonight with all this food, but you did. Everything was great. And the wine they had.
Limoncello.
A limoncello. Yes, that helps with the digestion.
Exactly. That's why I slept good, was because of limoncello.
Yeah, you get done everything that you had over the 3-hour period, and then you get a shot of limoncello. And it's not the same as the stuff you buy in the United States. No. It is much better. It's homemade. It was really good. And their wine, there was a never-ending supply of the best wine I've ever had. I mean, some of it was homemade and some of it was store-bought, but all of it was good. And in the United States, I can't drink red wine, but over there I could drink it all day long because it never gave me a headache. Very good. So, and the family was intent on making sure we had everything we needed and that we were entertained. I mean, they planned out every single day for us. You know, one day we just wanted to explore. So we said, hey, why don't you guys just, you know, stay home today and we'll take care of ourselves. So we did have one day when we were with them that we just went and explored on our own. We too had to make room in our luggage for the olive oil. They came back with these great big jugs of olive oil for us to take home. They gave Mom wine. We got olive oil. I'm not sure about that.
I liked it. We had it for a long time. It was great.
Oh my God, it was so good. And they make their own olive oil, so it was amazing. And I may have paid $50 extra to get my bags home. Just saying.
I'm sure it was worth it.
It was every penny.
Yeah.
But they were so gracious and generous. Our cousin Maria from Italy, not Maria from Argentina. She worked at a hotel there, and we were given a very nice discount. Each of us just paid a few $100s for the entire week. I mean, it was nothing.
Oh, wow.
To stay there. So it was just amazing.
And the view.
Oh, yes. We had views. We had balconies. We were on the top floor, and we had views of everything in the city and around, you know, down over through to the lake. It was just gorgeous there. There was a continental breakfast there, and, you know, we could eat that, but Maria had a plate of homemade pastries from this bakery that were just fabulous, but they were just for us. They weren't for everybody else who stayed at the hotel. They were just for us. So they made just certain little things just to make our trip more memorable, and it was just fantastic. Unlike Mom, when she talked about going out into the field to work, we weren't allowed to do that. We couldn't lift a finger, just like when Kim went to Argentina, we weren't allowed to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we did have a lesson one day in making pasta, but that was it. That's the only thing that we did. When they prepared the meals, we didn't even see them prepare the meals. You know, and over in America, you see, you know, you're in the kitchen with the people making the meals. It's not like that there. I mean, we had one night where they shut the kitchen right off to us, wouldn't even let us get in there. So that was kind of interesting.
I'll take my plate back. No, you won't.
Yes, yeah, you couldn't even pick your plate up off the table. They wouldn't allow you to do that. Yes, it's kind of like being royalty, I guess.
That's
Mom
right.
described it that way.
Yep.
And the excitement was evident when we met them, especially with Massimo and Roberto. If you remember, Massimo and Roberto were there to pick my mother up at the airport. So they were young kids when Mom was there. So now they're grown, and Massimo actually just retired.
Mm-hmm.
So it was neat meeting those relatives that Mom met. There was Massimo, Roberto, Alvaro, Simonetta, Ioli, and Maria. Ioli and Maria were very young. And I actually had this tiny little doll that belonged to one of them, and I meant to take it with me to Italy to find out which one it had belonged to, but they had given it to me. It's just kind of interesting. We were not allowed to pay for anything when we went out. We only spent our money on souvenirs. And I'm serious, they would not let us pay for a thing. And let's not forget Massimo coming to Kim's rescue and getting her free health care when she banged her knee.
Yeah, that wasn't pretty. But he did. We didn't need to translate anything. He just looked at my knee and said, "Come on."
Didn't you do that in Argentina too, Kim?
Yes, I did.
She's testing out the health care.
That's a tough way to, figure out how their healthcare works.
But in Argentina, I didn't need to go to a clinic because I had Marta. Marta had everything I needed. She put bandages on my knees, and she had the cream, the silver cream, and she was a peach. So I had her for my health care. But yeah, I ended up in a clinic in Italy, but
So you remember last week, Mom was talking about the men in Italy and how good looking they were?
Oh,
well, she was absolutely correct. Yes, she was. And our not so secret words to let the other girls know that a handsome man was looky, looky.
Which cannot be translated into anything. So who are these crazy women hollering, looky, looky?
Yeah, so that was our little cue to, hey, take a look over there. There's a handsome one there. We said it all the time. We also visited Rome, but we did not do it while we were in Montefascone. We did it ahead of time. So we went to Rome first, and then we headed to Montefascone. And we all will agree that St. Peter's Basilica was extraordinary. Unlike Mom, we lost our sister in the Vatican for about 3 hours, but that's another story. We don't have time to get into that.
Hold on to your siblings.
Yes, and make sure that they have your cell phone number and that they have a cell phone with them.
That they actually bring a cell phone.
Yeah, but we did find her, so all is good.
Yeah.
We brought her home with us too. We were fortunate to have Michaela, our cousin Michaela, to translate for us. So she speaks some English. Oh, actually, she does a really good job. And so she could translate things back and forth. I know it really tired her out doing that, but she was wonderful. And Andrew, my brother Andrew, was a rock star with his limited Italian. He practiced before we went. I'm pretty sure my DNA prevents me from rolling my tongue to pronounce words correctly. Because I know Andy laughed at me every time I tried to say something. Couldn't do it. I think each of us had special memories from the trip. Every meal was memorable. Saturday's 3-hour lunch with the Dinky Cherry wine was incredible. The Dinky Cherry wine was made by Piero, my cousin Piero, who passed away just before we went there, just a few months before, and he was really looking forward to seeing us. So that was at Massimo's house. That's Massimo's father, and he had made that Dinky wine. We call it the Dinky Cherry wine. I think it had a different name, but they would make some little cherries.
We couldn't figure it out.
And by the time we drank it, it was just the Dinky Cherry wine. So after we had this wine, the next day we were going to the beach. They were taking us to the Mediterranean. So none of us had brought a bathing suit. So Massimo loads us into his vehicle and away we go and to the Chinese store. And Massimo kept saying, my friends, my friends. The Chinese were his friends. So he was going to take us there to get us a bathing suit. And I remember him holding up a bikini and looking at me and shaking his head, saying no, and putting it back on the rack. He was really a funny guy. So, after we thought we had met everybody and, all the families that we were going to meet, because really when we went there, we thought we were just going to see them maybe for a day or two, and then we'd have the rest of the week to ourselves to just go explore and see things. We didn't really understand what that family was going to do. They embraced us and they planned out every single day. So there was no downtime for us. They made sure that our trip was memorable. So when we thought we had met everybody, it was, oh, by the way, tonight you're going to Semenita's and Roberto's families to have dinner. We're like, what? Who are these people?
Get my tree out. Who are these people? What branch are they on? It didn't take long to figure out.
No, it didn't. And Roberto was so excited to see me when I got there. I mean, he instantly started hitting me in the arm and talking quickly in Italian, and I couldn't understand a word he was saying. My Google couldn't keep up. But he wanted to tell me that he was one of the ones that had gone to Rome to pick up my mother, and he had driven her back to Montefascone. So he was very excited to tell me that. So, I mean, they were very excited. And they had their children in there. My cousin Mirko was Roberto's son. And they were sitting on the opposite side of the table of us. And you could see these young kids, the early 20s. And they were just kind of giggling and looking at each other. I don't know what was going through their mind. Like, who are these crazy Americans? So we all had, just great memories of all of that.
I wished I had written a journal now.
I do too. Cindy did. So it'd be interesting to see what Cindy has in her journal.
Did any of you have a favorite dish that they served?
Oh God. What was that thing I had at that restaurant? Remember? You guys had seafood. I had.
Oh yeah.
I'll get back to you. What was that? Truffle sauce. Something with truffle sauce.
Yeah, that was really good. I really liked
that was really
their
delicious.
Roasted wild boar.
That was really good too.
That was really good. And their pasta was fabulous. I really can't say that there was anything.
Nothing that you didn't like. Yeah.
Dinky cherry wine.
Yes, the dinky cherry wine was right at the top. And they would take us out. They picked us up one night at 8:00 and we went off to Viterbo and we were eating ice cream at midnight. It's like their time is so different than ours. There was. They didn't start doing things till 8:00 at night when we're ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
And it was fun getting the Italians in the Mediterranean when we went to the beach because they didn't go in the water. So
they didn't swim.
No. So we coaxed them in and they did come in with us. We got a picture of all of us in there. So that was fun. And we went to the winery Estest and we watched the grapes being delivered by Maria's husband, Agostino. So he came in with his tractor and his big trailer, and we watched him dump all the grapes in and go through the auger. So that was
random too. We just happened to be there.
It was very random. Yep. Yeah. And at the same time that this was all happening, this other guy comes walking up, and Michaela says, "Oh, this is your cousin." So it was another Nicolai from a different family. I can't even remember what his name is now. But so that was kind of interesting too. So I think we had cousins all over the place that we didn't even know.
Yeah.
And when we went to shopping one day, this is the day that Kim, you were back in Montefascone, busting up your knee,
falling down.
But we went shopping, and Anna Rita, who is Massimo's wife, she took us to meet her parents and her sister. And they had cake ready for us. So everybody they were just so excited to see us and to meet us. Everybody treated us like family. And when it was time for us to leave Montefascone to come home, they didn't think that the train tickets that we had were the best way to get back. So they took us to another station. They drove us in different vehicles, got up early in the morning and took us and went, and they bought us our tickets. We didn't pay for them. They bought us tickets to go on a different train to take us back. So, they paid for everything. They just wouldn't allow us to do it. It was incredible the way we were treated. What struck me was that our cousins did not have they just didn't have that pull to find out about their ancestors. We're into genealogy and we want to know where we came from. They already knew. I mean, Massimo just said, "Oh, it's on, the family tree's on a wall in a restaurant." This is the last night we were there. We're like, what? Where? Too late.
It's just here. We are here. They have no interest because they
never left. Yeah, they're living right where their ancestors lived.
Yeah. And I remember the puzzled looks on their face when we said we wanted to go to the cemetery. I was like, what? Why do you want to go there? And you could even tell when we were there, they were like, I don't know if they were a little bit uncomfortable doing it because they don't go there. But they indulged us and let us go to the cemetery. And then we went to the municipal building to try to look at birth records. Tim, remember how good looking that guy was?
Yeah.
Mm.
And you know what's exciting is he likes cemeteries. He had the cemetery map up on the wall, and I'm thinking, this is the mothership right here. This is where everybody needs to be.
I was just happy looking at him.
Yeah.
What cemetery?
Yeah. Why are we here? And then we got to go into the room where the actual birth records were. They were in books. They were sitting on a shelf. And I am a municipal clerk. And I take care of all of the vital records for my community. And I see all these books just on open shelves. The windows are open and there's no screens on them. It caused me a little bit of stress to see the books like that, but they safeguarded them. They wouldn't let us look at them. So
It
But
was odd.
it was odd to see them just sitting on a shelf.
Mhm.
And they were so very old, 1800s.
Yeah.
They should have been kept better than that, but I guess they're still there and they didn't look like they were in bad shape. So
Yeah.
something's good. But of everything that happened, the moment that meant the most to me was when I stepped out of the car in front of the hotel and saw my cousins Maria and Yoli. I had the most indescribable feeling of being home, and it brought me to tears. The tears just popped right out of my eyes. I finally had a connection that I didn't even know I was missing. Growing up without ever knowing my grandparents, I didn't have that family extension that so many take for granted. Maybe my DNA or my cellular memory recognized that we were home. It was pure joy.
It was. I just want to make a quick note that as a genealogist, those records that were on the shelf, of course, surprised me too. Like, oh my God, they're just right here. I could just pull one out and look real quick. But I got the thought from what the clerk had said that they're already out there, something like that. She said something like that. And it is true. The FamilySearch.org, which is the Mormon church, had already been there and made copies of everything. So it is available to look at through the FamilySearch.org, but it's view only, and you have to go to a site, an approved site, to look at them. So you can find out what's available. You could, like I could do it right on my computer here. They'll say, oh yeah, all Montefiascone's records, but they're all locked. And you have to go to an approved site to see them. So there's only 2 sites in Maine. One's in Cape Elizabeth and one's in Bangor, and they're weird hours, and I just don't always get there when I want to. And then it's only view only, so you have to transcribe everything. So my cure would be just to go to Salt Lake City and go to the big library and
The
just,
mothership.
yeah, I call that the mothership, and then just get all the information all at once. Someday I'll do that, but just so you know, they had already had those records copied and had pictures taken of them, so they are available. Anyway, that's my little genealogist 2 cents.
Yeah, and I think that Kim and I can probably both identify with what you described, Lisa, knowing of something that you didn't even know you were missing, and finding that. And from the Hazel and Humphrey perspective, we had a 4-year journey of discovering the reality of our genetic line and meeting the family we didn't know we had. And I don't think we knew what was missing either. Like finding them and getting to meet them has just brought something very special to us. And there's a comfort and an ease with these people that I think DNA is the explanation. You kind of look at them and you see the similarities, and it just adds to that feeling of connection. And as Kim likes to say, DNA doesn't lie. So, and I keep getting this stupid phrase going around in my head that, I'll just let it out. The DNA in me recognizes the DNA in you. So I feel like when we met them and just seeing those similarities and all that, it just gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling. And I can certainly appreciate that that's probably what you felt, or similar to what you might have felt, when you met all those wonderful people in Italy.
Right.
I think you hit it right on the nose. The DNA, my DNA did recognize their DNA. That's perfect.
Right?
I love it.
I'm getting stickers made.
The inner nerd.
I want one.
One thing I want to ask the panel here is I have a very pressing question. So when Andy and I travel abroad, or anytime we've gone somewhere, it always feels like the alcohol always tastes better wherever you are. So we've been to Ireland and Italy and Argentina, but so like Guinness beer, Newcastle ale, Smithwick's, Malbec wine, Est, Dinky cherry wine, limoncello. Is it true that it always tastes better abroad, like where it's made? What do you think? Is it the atmosphere? Is it the company? Or is it really better? Because I think it's really better. That's just all I'm going to say.
It's better.
Because you get Guinness here, it doesn't taste the same.
But maybe the atmosphere only adds to it.
Also, I did want to mention that there were family members that emigrated from Italy to Australia. And we found some of those family members, but we don't have a whole lot of details and more research needs to be done. But you never know. Maybe there'd be an Australian road trip, Australian wine, Australian beer. Would love to experience, but I have a thing about spiders. I don't want to see any Australian spiders, so I'm a little nervous about all that. I don't know why that comes to mind, but it does. And Lisa has 9 siblings, one of them being my husband. And I'm sure they have their own memories and Italian heritage knowledge, but getting 10 siblings on one chat, I thought might blow Zoom right up. I'm not sure how that would work, but we're attempting to get some other family voices to the story because it's really quite a great story and there's other experiences. And we may have some pleasant surprises for you, so be for details. Until then, we would recommend checking out familysearch.org. Even if you can't find something on a quick search, you can search an area and see what's available about your ancestral hometown. There are tons of records from Montefiascone, Italy. I just need to go to the mothership, I guess, and read them all.
Yep.
That sounds like a good weekend to me.
So for this week, please feel free to comment at chasinghazelstales@gmail.com. Let us know if you have any questions or stories you want to share. And please rate, review, or subscribe to the podcast if you like to listen. And let us know what you think. Tell all your friends.
And we'll see you next week. And I hope you have a great Valentine's Day. We'll give another Italian farewell. So I'll say ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.